Good morning. Our next talk is titled Accelerate Your Agency's Workflows with AI Tools, Accelerate and Development and Maintenance, presented by Courtney Robertson and Evan Herman. The discussion explains how AI automates daily tasks, fine-tunes content strategies, and speeds up custom generation. Everyone give a warm welcome to Courtney Robertson and Evan Herman.
Hey, friends. Ooh, hot mic, a little loud. It's good to see actual friends in the crowd. This might be the only, right now, this is the only WordCamp in the US that I get to go to this year. And so it really is an honor to come and be with all of you. And some of you I've had the opportunity to be at camps with over and over, so thank you very much. I'm Courtney Robertson. My day job is developer relations at GoDaddy. But I'm pretty local. I live in the Gettysburg vicinity, and also joining me is Evan.
Hello, I'm Evan Herman, Senior Software Engineer at GoDaddy, and sponsored 10 hours a week to work on the WordPress.org plugin review team.
Really important things to make sure that for the audience that you understand a lot of what's changing and evolving. Just with a quick show of hands, can I see how many of you are actively using AI like once a day in your work? All right, so a lot of us, that's great. So this will be a little bit of a high-level talk, and it might spark some ideas for you in terms of what types of things you aren't really already considering for AI. So some of what we're going to get into is kind of the history of where we were in WordPress, but also where AI is taking us. So AI is starting to be in things like SEO. We'll look at that briefly. We'll look at where it's showing up in our coding areas and more alphabet soup. If you've heard of things like LLMs, well, now we have MCP, and it's new letters to learn, and what does all of that mean as it relates to AI as part of this alphabet soup. And then at the end, we'll have some question time. So up first is, where were we? Anybody here installed WordPress around like 2008, 2009? Oh, friends, I'm in the right crowd. Thank you. Before we had the 5-minute easy installs, right? Do you remember going and setting up your database and all of that? And how hard that was to learn? And who do you go ask those questions to? And what if you don't learn by reading the docs? Oh, gosh. So along the way, we then started with those 5-minute installs with like Fantastico and cPanel and all of that good stuff. And that made it easier. But then we started having managed hosting. And so as you continue, we started into things like having CLI. For those that are devs, you're like, give me terminal and let me write commands to my WordPress site in the terminal and all of that. Well, AI is ramping up our speed, and we know that. So we want the easy options. And I know that AI has been helpful to me. Where did my semicolon go? Where did my brackets go? Why can't I find the stinking code that I, like, yes. So AI is making things faster and easier for us. Obviously, we know for efficiency's sake that it can be there. It can also help us with some of the security things if you know how to prompt it to work in the right direction. In terms of efficiency, go on to the next one. Yeah, onboarding is probably one of the easiest ones. So in this audience, how many of you are DIYers? I build my site for myself only kind of crowd, okay? How many of you are, I build sites for a lot of customers? Okay, so if you are looking around at various managed hosting options, in the managed world, that means that we take care of, I say we, I work at GoDaddy. Other managed hosts will do this too. They take care of keeping your site secure and up to date, and they run specific settings for that. If you were to take a look at kind of the competitive landscape right now for managed hosting, whether it be Bluehost, Hostinger, Stellar Sites, Ionos, WordPress.com, GoDaddy, you get this managed interface with AI when you are onboarding. You could choose the vanilla option. Give me the plain, I know what I'm doing, I don't want AI at this point. Or you could say, this is a really simple 5-page website that needs certain content. Or, better yet, my customer doesn't know what content to write or what images to put onto their site. And they need examples that are better than whatever the theme comes with, right? A little bit more specific to them. So when you go through an onboarding experience, most of these places are now asking you a set of simple questions, and then it will use AI to go get images and write some of the content for you and help you know how to set up the basics of this 5-page site. If you are an agency owner, you're building sites for customers, the strength of that is in giving the customers that pre-filled content that you know you still need to get on them about changing, but at least it doesn't say, upload your image here, lorem ipsum, whatever, right? And so you can get content with that AI. And some of the other things to kind of look for, a lot of us are starting to see Extendify used by many hosts, and they will white label Extendify. Extendify comes with like templates and patterns and all of that good stuff too, but it has an AI onboarding wizard component as well. So whether the host creates it themselves or uses a third-party system, even if you are wanting the custom process, getting that initial content, folks like Laura Byrne here, who has been one of our organizers, are going to tell you, you need that demo content to look like something so that they can go change it later. So onboarding with AI is certainly the easy first step, but you're going to also see it in more of the content. So early on, I saw Bertha AI launch. That one is Andrew Palmer. He has since, I think, sold the business off, but there are a lot of content plugins that are out there to help create your AI. You can essentially treat it like a ghostwriter. All of the images that are in our slides are AI-generated images for your benefit. So you could treat your content like it's a ghostwriter, although if you do, there are caveats. You may have heard the latest is M-Dash's giveaway that you use ChatGPT to write your stuff. A lot of these plugins will still call for like a ChatGPT API key. So you have to go get your account with these systems and it will help, but not all of them. But again, it can be a good starting point. And if you are a small shop that wears many hats, it can be, a good beginning place. Next stop is into accessibility and where accessibility is integrating with AI. So certainly you could get your alt text done. And I put that as like the main story that's there. There are quite a few plugins that help get the alt text. If you have customers, sites that you're building for that you still always want, no AI should be left without some guardrails. You should always proofread your AI bots. But if you are struggling to get the customer to whoever you're building your sites for, to always remember to put that alt text in there, or you have a really large inventory of backlog media, you want to get alt text on those images. And it's been really easy for people to upload stuff and not put it in there. That is bad for accessibility and SEO alike. Accessibility is always going to be our priority. The search engines follow good accessibility practices. So there are plugins that will help you with that, along with other bits of accessibility, like do you have your heading levels in the right area? So there's a whole category of just plugins, even in the WordPress.org directory, that you could go get for that area. The more you could be compliant with accessibility, the better. So let AI help you in that regard. Again, visuals. I said all of the visuals in our slides today are AI generated. There are some, so certainly you could go up to ChatGPT and use like DALL-E. If you've seen ChatGPT, you could give it prompts. I've given it ones to create a very custom WAPU for me, WAPU being the unofficial mascot of WordPress. So you could get it to make visuals for you. Some of them may be more believable than others, especially if fingers are involved on human hands. You could see when images go rogue and weird with things, but also it can be a really helpful tool. And if you want to bring that right inside of the WordPress experience, tools like Imagine or a few other plugins that are out there are going to be able to help you with that. You could give your prompt right inside the WordPress dashboard, not even needing to go over to ChatGPT and then download and upload and all of that again. Chatbots are a really common one, for good or bad. If you've ever gotten onto customer support and handled that all through a chat interface, the AI chatbots are going to do things like, if you say, here's the knowledge base that goes with our product. If you're a plugin company or you offer some kind of a chatbot on your site or your customers need to be able to provide service to others, you give it, here is our knowledge base of material, and your chatbots are now trained on your knowledge base, and they will prompt people through, oh, did you mean this? Did you mean that? Caveats again. Always check, give it some guardrails, test it, ask it the most ridiculous questions. And a lot of times with these types of chatbot plugins, you could see a log of the things that it was asked. Go back through that, because sometimes you might find that there are areas or ways that The chatbots are not giving the best answers. So it still needs some work in customer support, I would say, related to AI with the chatbots. Publishing automation, it's not just creating your content, but deciding when it goes live and where it goes live to. So we're starting to see some plugins that are going to relate to the scheduling that's involved, as well as optimal times to publish all of it. The different use cases for that would be things like you might want to schedule posts or use AI to help you with when should a WooCommerce product go live. So check in, there are publishing specific plugins in the .org directory. A lot of these, if you just go to the WordPress.org directory and search for AI, you'll start noticing that I just categorized a lot of what I'm seeing in there. SEO is certainly a big one. All of these tools, Rank Math, All-in-One SEO, and Yoast all have SEO components inside of it. Again, buyer beware, choose which plugin fits your needs. I know that Yoast recently launched, similar to a robots.txt file that helps search engines know what's going on in your website, launched a specific version complementary to that, but to help the AI bots that are scanning sites. So there are ways to both use, use robots.txt to block AI bots from scanning your site if you don't want them to. But there are also other ways that you can use, like Yoast SEO, to help the search engines for AI scan your site. And a lot of folks, what we're seeing right now is that a lot of folks are going directly to AI tools to search. So you need to think about not just, does my customer's website show up in search results? But now also, does my customer's websites show up in the AI searches? How do I optimize for that if we want to optimize for that? If you want to try and keep the bots away, maybe it's an author site or something like that. I think there are really good use cases also for keeping them away, and so these SEO tools can also help with some of those needs too. Multilingual is a really fascinating one. We're seeing WPML, Translate Press, and a few others that are starting to integrate. I put DeepL on this list. DeepL is known in the translation communities especially for being a really reliable AI tool. There are ways to interface that to do it all right inside of WordPress. But then I'll also give a plug for Fluency. I found this plugin, well, I met one of the plugin developers about a year ago when I was at WordCamp Buffalo. And so Fluency does things kind of on the fly, and their language translation is amazing. They're using transients for those that are devs. They're using transients in a really interesting way. So it doesn't take as much human infrastructure to spin up these pages. And you can specify which languages and locales. So if you're saying Spanish, you could really drill in pretty quickly. But that one, it doesn't have quite the database overhead for the way that AI language translation is working. So if you've got some bilingual needs, I would definitely give that one a look through. But again, all of these are helping so that you don't have to manually go out, get the translation, copy pasta it back to your website. So multilingual tools for AI are something to keep on the horizon. As it relates to WooCommerce shops, if somebody is logged in and shopping on your website, maybe you want to personalize what you're recommending to them, whether it's Woo or EDD or one of the other e-commerce plugins in your site. There are a lot of different plugins that are out there now for those areas like Store Agent and Kestrel AI. The folks at Kestrel, a lot of them were the former folks at Skyverge that have graduated on and relaunched under Kestrel. And so they're doing some interesting things where they are promoting smart cross-sells or helping with your WooCommerce descriptions. And that's a lot of the tedious work that if you're the developer going back and forth with the end client on give me all your Woo descriptions, that's just chasing them down for a lot of things, right? And they may or may not have the best words to describe even their own products. So use some of the AI plugins that are out there and available now to really help that product placement within the site. And knowledge bases even are part of that. So there are some plugins that are starting to come along like Better Docs that will look through the content of whatever you're offering. So if you have need of creating a knowledge base and you give it, here's my code, it can help you with how do I make my knowledge base? How should I organize that? How do I connect that then maybe over to the chatbots? So there are a lot of interesting use cases on AI, but then there, aside from the plugins, we have a couple of other areas to get into. So that's a list of plugins that are already made. What if you're extending something? What if you're a developer and you say, my customer needs something unique for our form plugin, pick whatever form plugin you have. And you might want to just write a custom extension for it because this is a weird edge case and only this person needs it. Over the last few years, we've seen tools like CodeWP, WP Cody, and the last one that's up there is WP Turbo, where you could go to these and they will write specific WordPress code for you. So you input, here's what I want it to do, and it's going to come back specifically with WordPress code. And in theory, it should adhere to the right kind of standards. But there's a lot of cautions out there with just writing your own extensions for things if you aren't a developer to understand the code that you get back. So I would say that I'm skilled as somewhere around a junior dev. It's not efficient for me to be shipping on production at GoDaddy. You don't want me to be that person because I know a good bit, but I also know when to ask engineers that that's their specialty. So, Evan, what would be some of the problems that we could face if I decide to go write an extension on Gravity Forms or what have you, and I don't understand what I don't understand, and I just turn it on and make it live? What's the problem?
Mainly security implications. If you're not escaping and sanitizing your code properly, you're leaving yourself vulnerable to cross-site scripting, SQL injections, remote code execution.
Okay, so if I, again, pretending I don't know what I don't know, what's cross-site scripting?
Essentially inputting a JavaScript code into like a form field and then it executes. So you could do things like stealing cookies, so you could log into people's sites.
So we take my form extension, I make it do something extra to some form plugin, and I don't know what I don't know, and then I ship it on my customer's website, and somebody makes a bot that just goes looking for anywhere on the internet that they could possibly go drop some nice JavaScript code and inject whatever they want. I have just compromised the security of my customers' websites because I didn't know what I didn't know about making an extension inside of WordPress. So there are risks to what we're doing, and we need to be careful with what those risks look like.
So a little bit more about what Courtney was talking about, some of the risks in AI. You may have hard-coded secrets or SSH keys. You might get prompt injections. The code that's produced for you may be using outdated, insecure libraries or non-GPL compliant libraries. And then solutions for those, essentially sanitizing, which is cleaning data before it gets stored into your database, and escaping, which is protecting it before it's displayed on the page. And those are two simple methods that you can use to prevent cross-site scripting, SQL injections, remote code executions. And you can use PHPCS, which is a PHP library that will scan your code and tell you of things you may be missing or not following properly.
Get your phones out if you want a really good prompt. QR code that's up there. I've seen, I don't know, a bunch of different WordPress people say, here's how I am putting my prompt. You go to ChatGPT and you're like, hey, ChatGPT, I want this extension written, or Claude, or whatever you're in, and you want to train your bot. So I've sort of compiled, as I see various WordPressers share their tips for how they prompt ChatGPT. I just keep piling it together. So, Evan, can you tell us what are some of the things, if we go to a chat bot, that we should make sure that the bot is aware that we want it to return to us?
Just making sure you're following WordPress coding standards, and again, sanitizing and escaping. Optimizing performance using built-in caching mechanisms from WordPress core, ensuring web accessibility guidelines, and making all your code translatable.
Yeah, so this is all in a Google Doc, and I figured that was the fastest way to give you a link to get there. I'll share the link on my socials a little bit later today too, but it's just a way of reminding ChatGPT or what have you. Every time that I ask you for WordPress code, I want you to return it to me as actual WordPress code that is modern, that meets accessibility standards, etc. And if you have ideas or suggestions on improving it, happy to do so and continue sharing.
Okay, I'll talk about a little bit about Model Context Protocol, which is a relatively new protocol. It's an open protocol that provides a standardized way to connect AI models with different data sources and tools, and essentially sends your WP site context structured as JSON. And yeah, we just have a use case down here at the bottom, MCP, GitHub, Secure REST API, and CLI integration, which I'll talk about in a second.
How did you and I first get into dabbling in MCP?
Recently we were in Germany at a conference is called CloudFest, and we were at a hackathon. It was very WordPress heavy, and there was a team there that was working on creating a plugin for MCP, which essentially converts your WordPress site into a MCP server, and then converts WP CLI into the MCP host, so you can directly interact with your WordPress site using WP CLI human language, and you get direct AI interactions with your WordPress site. And here's just a very brief overview of the architecture. You have the MCP hosts, which is programs like Claude, IDEs, or AI tools that want to access data through MCP. Then you have the clients, which maintain the one-to-one connections with the servers. You have the servers, which are lightweight programs that each expose specific capabilities through the standardized Model Context Protocol. Then you have your local data sources, which are computer files or databases that live locally on your machine. Then you have remote services, which are external systems available over the internet, for example, through APIs that MCP servers can connect to and get data from. Before that plays. Yeah, so like I was mentioning, the MCP server plugin that was worked on at the hackathon, we set it up locally and we played with it a little bit. So we're just going to show off a quick demo of that.
And to be clear, MCP is not just about WordPress. It's a standard for all things that are AI interfacing with systems.
So here you see we just have a basic WordPress site, and we're providing a prompt here, write a blog post using WordPress blocks about the history of WordPress WordCamp Montclair. So this will reach out to ChatGPT 4.0 Mini and generate a post for us, and you'll see here it asked us if we want to use one of our existing categories or if we want to create a new events category. So we tell it to create a new category.
What's going on our website, and it takes a little bit of back and forth time to think. We spun this up just on local WP.
So you'll see there we got the draft post of it, and we just tell it publish this post to my site, and for whatever reason it was published as a page, so we had to go back in and say I want this as a post, not a page.
There are some areas to continue improving a little bit with it.
There's some quirks. You'll see the categories and tags weren't added, and the publish date was not correct. So just add the categories, add the tags, update the publish date.
We had to tell it what date today was when we recorded this. It thought it was 2 years before for some reason. I don't know, PHP and events and times are weird. Yeah, yeah.
It's interfacing with WP CLI.
Yep.
It's passing it through AI and then communicating back to your WordPress site to handle all the interactions using REST API in the backend.
And we had to tell it, please use, how do we say, block? What was the?
Gutenberg blocks.
Yeah, I said something like either use Gutenberg blocks or WordPress blocks or something like that, because at first it returned it to us using classic editor interface. Like it was a classic block when it dropped it in. So we had to nudge it a little bit and say like, no, give it to me in either Markdown or Gutenberg blocks or something like that. So there's some refinements that are still underway with the group that's behind this particular project. So as you can imagine, we touched a little bit on security, but actually, in addition, as we pivot over a little bit, in addition to, by the way, I will make sure that we tweet out the links or share on social the link to that hackathon project. Pascal Birchler, for those of you that have recognized some of the WordPress contributors and things, Pascal Birchler, Joost de Valk, and Milana Kapp were all participating in that particular project. and it's out on GitHub, so I'll make sure that we share the links for that one. As it relates to security tooling, any of the major WordPress security services that are out there are also exploring the AI integrations that are going on as it relates to malware protection and scanning of your sites. So AI is starting to get embedded even on that layer of security too. And then we're seeing AI also pop up in a few other places. So I have another demo for us. GoDaddy has GoDaddy Hub, formerly Pro Sites. It is related to, but kind of a repackaged offering of managed WP, if you have seen that at GoDaddy. So this relates to kind of what I do, day job, that hat. GoDaddy Hub plus Arrow, and Arrow's in a lot of commercials these days. We saw one on TV the other night. Go ahead. So the demo that you're seeing here first is, if you're managing customers' websites through an interface like GoDaddy Hub, we've integrated, at least at GoDaddy, some of the, you can do your market research for your customer. I went to ChatGPT and helped write my prompt, but it says market research in here, and you'll see that it's got a SWOT analysis and industry overview. So when you're doing a competitive analysis for your customers, you could even see AI kind of in this interface where you also get to manage your customers' websites for updates. So this gives back a report. Now, I would not just copy paste that to my customer at the end, but it would give me a good starting point. You know, I like to info dump at my chatbots and then get it to organize my thoughts back. Another thing that you're starting to see in managing your customer sites is we have Arrow Site Designer, and part of that's a site optimizer. You could say, here are my high-ranking pages. Now, I'm using my personal site, and the shoemaker's kids have no shoes, right? My problem. But 2 pages of my site I'm monitoring, and what I had this do is actually look at what I need to do to improve those pages, both SEO, accessibility. It tells me, here are the keywords that you might be gaining or trying to rank for. It integrates, we offer Yoast SEO, the free version, when people pick a managed plan, but it will integrate with that, and you can see here are the keywords. So you're starting to see AI not just inside of WordPress or outside of WordPress completely, but the interface between I'm managing customer sites and what can AI do for me in some of those spaces too. So some things are in early development yet, some things are shipping, but Arrow Site Designer will help optimize specific pages that you say, I really want to pay attention to this one. This is like a framework, a really foundational, important thing. And then other areas that you might start seeing AI pop up a little bit. I just saw a project for WP Playground. I don't know, I know Kim has heard of WP Playground. Might have shared with Kim's meetup group about it. Playground.wordpress.net. Playground.wordpress.net. It's a free, quick way to spin up a WordPress site in the browser that goes away. Think about if you're at least my generation or older, when Inspector Gadget's, the letters would just poof, they would be gone. That's what happens. You close the tab, that WordPress is gone. So WP Playground is pretty helpful for testing what the AI is doing. So Evan, can you tell me in the plugin review team how Playground is being used?
Sure. So one of the last steps before we approve and publish a plugin is we spin up a WP Playground instance and install that plugin to make sure it's not breaking the site or doing anything nefarious. And if it does, like Courtney said, we can just quit the browser and instance is gone, and we could spin up a new one and start over.
Why, when you were reviewing plugins for the plugin repo, why aren't you doing all of this on your personal laptop instead? Why are you putting it in Playground?
For those reasons, for security implications, I'm not trying to break my laptop or my WordPress installs locally.
Aw, where's the fun?
So.
Okay, so Playground gives you a safe, disposable way to test what AI is doing. I highly recommend that you use tools like this so that you are not going to cause your laptop to blow up in smoke. You would not enjoy that experience. But there are some tools that I'm starting to see coming along. One of the things that I mentioned that was a fun project for Playground was a way to give it a command. Birgit Polyhack published this one through Gutenberg Times recently about using Playground to spin up and take screenshots of a lot of things. And I think that intersection of like MCP and Playground could be really interesting to start experimenting with. So if you happen to run a product and you need to get lots of screenshots of all the things around your site, or you write a lot of docs, maybe at plugin theme companies. My background, formerly some years ago. I was at the events calendar. You know, tools like Playground were really helpful for me to, like, I couldn't use that one at the time. We had something else, and this is a future version of where things are going. But I don't want to blow stuff up on my own machine. I'd rather just close a browser, or force quit, reboot the laptop, and it's all gone. But where you see being able to give a command with something like MCP, and then Playground goes and does the thing for you, I'd be watching that spot to see kind of where the innovation is happening, because that seems like a safer way to test and build, especially if you are like me and you know enough to be dangerous, but you should not ship on production without testing thoroughly. Playground is where you want to be. So kind of just a conclusion, AI can be great at helping you proofread. Where did that rogue curly bracket go? I am not closing my things appropriately. Find it for me. It can be great for that. It could also be great for, people talking about vibe coding. It's this idea of spitballing. I have an idea. I don't care how it gets implemented. I don't care if it's compliant. I just wanted to get a prototype out there. It could be good for that. It's a good junior coder, good junior developer. It is not going to be your replacement. It should not be left without some guardrails, certainly. But review, test, experiment, get in and play with it, because certainly I think that it's everything from our graphics to our content to our proofreading and security, and it's finding its way into all the things. So again, I'm Courtney Robertson. I am a developer advocate at GoDaddy. I get to work with the open source community quite a bit. I also co-founded this thing, the WP Community Collective. We'll have some news in a couple of weeks about launching ways to fund folks that are contributing to WordPress that are making this possible. Oh, and forgot, a little bit of breaking news. There is a team forming in WordPress to handle AI strategy. So you can find info about them at make.wordpress.org/AI. That was a new team that's launched. And you are?
And I'm Evan Herman, and senior software engineer at GoDaddy and member of the plugin review team. So if you've submitted a plugin, chances are I reviewed it and you're speaking with me. If you have one in the queue, come find me, we'll get it pushed through. And you can find me on WordPress at eherman24 or Twitter at evanmherman.
So what are your questions about AI? What's your experiences? What are your questions? Whether it is AI or, hey, if it's related to WordPress contribution and or the plugin review team, Evan can answer all of it.
Sure.
And it kind of relates a little bit to GoDaddy because I use Manage WP. I have like 40 client sites I'm managing, and all of the sudden I'm getting all sorts of security alerts for plugins, low vulnerabilities, low chance of exploits according to all the security sites, but they're also for plugins that seem to be abandoned.
Yeah.
And what I was wondering is, what can I do without having to fork all of these plugins, find the unsanitized or unescaped code, do it myself, and that's still not going to solve the notification problem, getting a dozen notifications a day from Managed WP about these securities. Is there any kind of strategy to find new owners for these plugins, to find ways to kind of address these even minor security issues, but they could become major if, a 3-year-old plugin can have a major vulnerability? What can we do as a community?
Short of forking the plugin and creating one yourself, I mean, finding alternatives can be challenging. There's an adopt me tag on WordPress.org that if a plugin author decides they no longer want to maintain that plugin, they can put it up for adoption. If there are security vulnerabilities being reported, they are getting reached out to by the plugin team and the security team. If they don't respond, I think within 45 days, the plugins get closed. So I think the alternative is just finding another plugin that's currently being maintained, because there's not much we can do beyond that.
Chances are, I'm taking a wild guess, is it plugins that haven't just done the basic bump test?
I have to go through. I mean, some of them are very, the differences are. But I started going through, and it's like this plugin has been removed from the author's request. And it's like,
Oh.
well, okay, what do I do
Yeah.
about this security
Yeah.
plugin that is, or security, because this, even if a plugin is pulled from the repository, sites are still using them.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm in this dilemma.
It's a challenge with open source.
Yeah. Okay, so
If you notice that there is a trend of which ones it is, I would love to know that list and dig in a little bit.
all right, I'll
Um,
compile that list and send it to you next week.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thanks, Tracy. Who else? Other questions? We don't bite. Promise. Yeah, I'll put the links out. I know that we sent them in also to the camp, but yes, I can put the links out, certainly.
The age-old
Yeah, okay, so for the recording, the question is, will WordPress.org move off of SVN because that experience is really painful? Do you want to field that one?
No, I mean, as far as I know, there's been discussions of it, but nothing set in stone. There's no plan for it. I think core is mirrored onto GitHub, and
Yeah.
you can open issues there and pull requests on there now, but nothing for plugins.
It was hard to find a freebie, a GUI for it.
I know.
Hard to find a GUI for SVN.
Yeah.
And to be clear, is your concern about getting plugins uploaded to .org?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a stumbling block.
Yep.
I'm just so used to GitHub, I was like, oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, modernizing. I think a lot of us would enjoy if we could move in that direction. But I might have some other ideas to speak with you about related to that soon after this presentation. Other thoughts, other questions? What's the weirdest way you've used? I'm going to ask you questions if you're not asking us, because we got time. So, what's the weirdest way you have used AI in your workflow that you're willing to tell us about? Adam Silver, you have to have something. Meet my friend Adam Silver, host of Kitchen Sink WP. He's got the voice that you really want to listen to.
So, for those who don't know, my name is Adam Silver, but those who know the connection is, it's also the name of the NBA commissioner.
You get a microphone.
B. Well, that's hot. That is hot. Yeah.
It is a hot mic.
Wow. So, not part of my workflow from a work perspective, but life. I also own adamsilver.com. A lot of people in the world don't like the commissioner of the NBA.
Also named Adam Silver for the recording.
Right. I get emails weekly, some stuff on Twitter, X, but they go to the forum, they don't look at my photo, they just assume I'm him. I get emails weekly, I use ChatGPT to reply to every single one of them. I'm polite, I address their concern, question, NBA, WNBA, and then I say, I'm not the commissioner, just had the same name, owned the domain before he took over. But you can follow me at runadam.run. I do these other things. Follow me here and have a nice day.
I like that you lead with sports, at least for a sports audience.
Right.
We're missing the sports ball there, but
Right.
good. Are you receiving traffic from this ChatGPT?
I do get traffic from it, yeah.
Amazing.
And I get subscribers to my other places, which is brilliant. It's a full circle. But and people do write back more often than not. Thank you. Some people write back, I don't care, it's still your fault. Anyway, that's
Okay,
my
thank you.
ChatGPT story.
Go ahead. Is it automated?
I have the same prompt that I copy paste. I just change the name and I copy paste the email that they send me, so it replies to the actual problem or the question, the concern they have.
So, animal feed ingredients and health supplements getting mixed up. That's a really common problem because the WordPress community needs a lot of kitchen sinks. For those that remember the pre-Gutenberg era, there was a button called Kitchen Sink. Right around that time, there was a podcast that was launched, and then the kitchen sink button got hidden, deprecated, unless you run, yeah, anyway. So Adam, during lunch, you and I are gonna spin up a site similar to yours, because there is somebody with my namesake that was on The Bachelor and The Bachelorette and wrote some books. And I'm not her. Go figure. Nope, not that kind of GoDaddy lady. In any case, thank you all so very much for joining us today.